few days ago, Nal and I had the privilege to sit down with a trial lawyer who's visiting the United States from Dubai, who's made it his mission to help others, not just in the courtroom, but outside the courtroom.
See, through history, lawyers have been the catalyst for change when change has been the vehicle for justice. Firas Alchoufi came to the United States of America to pursue that change outside of the courtroom. See, justice isn't just in the courtroom. It's a commitment for doing what's right as a human being, regardless whether you're fighting a company, an insurance company, someone that's caused harm to another being, or fighting a whole entire regime. Because justice isn't just a human intervention. It is divinely ordained. We fight for it, not just because it's the law, but because it's the right thing to do. So this episode is an effort to shed light on what is the right thing to do.
My name is Tala Khatib. I am only 2 years old. At first glance, you might think the only crime here is a father holding his toddler while driving. But the truth is far darker. The man you see holding me in this video is not my father. He is my abductor. He belongs to Syria's Homeland Security, the same people who claim they came to save us from sectarian clashes. He and his unit murdered my parents right in front of me, forced my sister to walk over their blood, and then took me as a souvenir. They kidnapped me, they kidnapped my grandmother, they kidnapped my auntie, and they killed the rest of my family. This is not sectarian clashes. This is an annihilation attempt, and Syria is the orchestrator of these annihilation attempts. These are not my words. These are the soldiers' words, and they are not even ashamed to admit it anymore. Since December, when Syria was appointed as president, the massacres have only grown more violent. Thousands of my Druze and Christian neighbors have been killed only because of their faith. More than 200 were publicly executed, including Hussam Syria, an American Druze who had only come to visit his family. 5 churches were destroyed, entire families massacred, while their killers shouted, Takbir. I am not the only child. Hundreds of women and children like me were taken by Syria's Homeland Security and are still missing. And it is not just soldiers who justify this. Muammar Syria, the cousin of Ahmed Syria himself, issued a fatwa declaring that Druze women can now be enslaved as sex slaves because they are considered infidels. This is not the work of outlaws. This is the Syria regime itself. These massacres have only increased since Syria took power. In less than a year, he has brought endless terror and blood. So what will our destiny be if he gains even more power? I am only one story, a child whose only crime is being Druze.
We are back, RVA trial lawyers. Today we have a special guest, not across the country, but across the world and from Dubai. Firas Alchoufi, welcome to RVA trial lawyers. Why don't you introduce yourself to the listeners, please?
Thank you very much, Nail, for hosting me. Thank you, Mr. Gray, for this. I feel sorry that you both guys on a Sunday, instead of enjoying the time with your family.
It's our pleasure to have you.
No. This is exciting
with your families, and you are hosting this strange guest from Dubai, from, as you said, across the world.
But you agree, you're taking Nal and I back to Dubai with you.
That's
you are most welcome. Dubai is the most cosmopolitan city and the most welcome city in the world.
I'm pretty sure I could fit in your suitcase. So.
Well, I'm pretty sure you look sporty, Sheriff. I'm pretty sure you can make it swimming there.
Well, I tell you what I'm wearing now, this is like formal attire for me on a weekend. So Nal and I were texting. I was like, what's he going to do? And I was like, I just can't get myself to put a suit on or a jacket on the weekend.
Especially if you're wearing it Monday through Friday.
That's right.
So Firas, what's special about you is you're originally from Suwayda, Syria.
Yes.
Then you moved to Dubai, where you practiced law in Dubai for over 20 years.
24 years.
24 years, to be exact. You have a law firm. Why don't you tell the listeners a bit about your law firm and what kind of work you all do?
Okay. Thank you for this introduction. As you rightly said, my name is Firas Alchoufi. I'm from Suwayda province, which is a mountain in the southern part of Syria with a majority of more than 95% of its population Druze minority.
What are Druze? Because for a lot of people don't know, Druze is a small...
It's the most closed religious in the world. It's we don't identify ourselves by religious, but it's not a nationalistic identity. It's a cultural identity.
And where are Druze located in the world?
Mainly in Syria, and their main place is Suwayda, where I come from. But they are also in a couple of towns near Damascus, like Jaramana and Sahnaya, Ashrafi Sahnaya. Also, there were, unfortunately, 14 villages in Idlib before Al-Nusra terrorist group took over Idlib around 10 years ago.
And we'll get to that. What other countries do we find Druze in?
And there are around 300,000, 400,000, I don't know, at max in Lebanon, and 150,000 or a little bit more in Israel. And there are also around 50,000 in Jordan. So that's mainly the 4 Levant countries where the Druze are available. In addition to that, there are many diasporas, many immigrant Druze to here, like in the USA, in South America, in Venezuela, Argentina, Mexico. So we are spread all over the world. But that's our hometown in 4 main countries in the Levant.
So as a young Druze man, leaving Suwayda behind and going to Dubai, let's talk about how you established yourself in Dubai and your firm in Dubai.
Yeah. As a lawyer, as a young lawyer, as I said, as a junior lawyer, let me say that, I moved to Dubai 24 years ago and started working as a legal consultant in a few law firms, moving between law firms till in 2011, I established my own law firm, which is called Ben Sivan Advocates and Legal Consultants. The firm now has more than 24 lawyers. We cover most areas of law, like criminal, civil, real estate, construction, and family law even, and we have even special department now for corporate law. So that's the law firm. Me personally, I'm a founder and managing partner, but I do also arbitration as arbitrator, international arbitrator. I am a fellowship of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators in UK. I'm also a fellow of the London Court of International Arbitration in London, which is called LCIA. I am the one of the UAE delegates to the ICC Global Commission on Arbitration and ADR. I issued in the last 4 or 5 years more than 40 awards in international commercial arbitrations as an arbitrator. As a lead counsel, maybe I did more than 150 cases as an arbitration. In addition, I help my colleague as a managing partner to the law firm, but I have very good team, and they are like brothers and sisters in my law firm, and we are from different nationalities. They are from UK, from France, from Austria, from Egypt, from Syria, from Lebanon, and you name it. Because Dubai is an international city, so everywhere, every place, every company, you will have people from all over the world in it.
That's incredible. That's incredible. I mean, it's so easy, I think, for us, and I can certainly speak as to what I think, but we're so closed. Like, we think of the U.S. justice system, and that's it, right? To even this idea that there's this whole world out there.
I might shock you, I
mean, it's incredible.
No, I might shock you. You know that mainly there are 2 major legal systems in the world. There is the civil law system, jurisdiction, civil law jurisdiction,
right,
and common law jurisdictions. Here in US, mainly you follow the common law. I believe there are a few states follow the civil, which I'm not sure very well. You guys should know more better than me.
Hope so.
Hope so.
We want our listeners at least to believe that. Yes.
But in Dubai, we have the civil law, which is Arabic tradition taken after the French system. But recently in Dubai, we established also something called DIFC, Dubai Financial International Financial Center courts, which follow the common law system, English judges, and deliberations and judgments and whatever you want, it's in English language. So in Dubai, you have the choice to choose to put in your contract in case of any dispute happens to go for arbitration or to go to the normal traditional courts, which litigation conducted in Arabic language, or you go to the common law system in the DIFC courts to conduct your case in English under the English law.
That is interesting that you can, I mean, here too, you can put an arbitration clause, but it's interesting that you can dictate what court you can actually file in. If you're an American company, you're going to say, hey, I'd rather go with the common law,
Well, I mean, considering the courts have different languages, which is incredible,
exactly.
right?
Talking about arbitration in US, sorry, I was shocked. I attended a couple of days ago the 20th session of the ICC.
And what is the ICC for?
ICC, it's abbreviation of International Chamber of Commerce, the headquarter in Paris in France. But of course, it's a global entity now, having branches all over the world. And there is something called ICC International Arbitration Court, where arbitrations are conducted under the ICC rules for arbitration. So being one of the UE delegates to the ICC Global Commission on Arbitration, I have to attend the major meetings of the ICC. And this meeting just a few days ago on 19th of September, the conference was in New York. And I attended. While I was chatting with some of the US colleagues about arbitration, I was shocked to see that arbitration here in US is much cheaper than litigation before US courts. While in Dubai, I can assure you that arbitration is sometimes more than 1,000 times more expensive than the normal courts.
And
so
why is that?
Why? Because in Dubai courts, there is a cap on the fees which you have to pay to the court, regardless the amount of claim. The cap is 40,000 dirhams, which is around $12,000 or $13,000. That's the maximum. They take 6% of the claim value as fees. However, you should not pay more than the capped 40,000 dirhams. 13,000. So even if you are claiming for 2 billion dirhams or $2 billion, that's the maximum fees which you pay to the court. While in arbitration, no, there is no cap.
Yeah.
Depends on the rules of that.
I like arbitration.
I don't like being a trial attorney anymore.
Yeah, we're going to go arbitrate.
But if you were a poor claimant, you would prefer such system in Dubai.
right.
Wouldn't you agree?
No, of course. Now, does the court system, does it have juries or is it just judges?
No, just judges. That's the civil law system. Even in the common law, which is the DIFC course, we don't have juries. We have only judges because it's only for civil and commercial. Criminal cases still being litigated before the local courts.
I would guess then that arbitration in Dubai is much more built out and probably than it is in the U.S., right? I mean, if that's the choice of venue for the vast majority of issues, then I imagine, is there case law or arbitration case law in Dubai? Or
No,
and I mean, in the U.S., it's very informal. I mean,
I don't think there is
or
a
contractual.
Case law for arbitration anywhere in the world.
Right,
Okay.
and I wouldn't think so. But
And I
I'm
believe
just,
the case law, it's only available in the common law systems.
which makes sense.
Yes.
Which makes sense.
So there is, because you are talking about international, a company from France doing business in Nigeria, getting a dispute or involved in a dispute with another company from US about supply of materials from China, for example. So it's an international, when it comes to this international trading or international commercial, it's the only game in town.
That makes
for
sense.
arbitration.
This is probably a dumb question, but is there a lot of back and forth when it comes to setting the terms of the arbitration?
Parties can go to the arbitrations either when they fix in the contract as a clause,
Right.
that in case of a dispute, they go to arbitration under specific rules. If there is no specific rules, then the court of the seat, you can approach to appoint the tribunal. Or even after the dispute arose, the parties might agree, and that called submission agreement, that after the dispute, they agree to refer their dispute to arbitration.
Interesting. Now, so I remember when I went to law school, I had spent some time as a child overseas, and I'm half Egyptian myself. And I remember thinking, oh, international law, that sounds great, exciting. And I came to realize that one of the biggest issues, which I understand why now arbitration is so popular and is the preferred avenue when it comes to resolving issues, is there isn't a sovereign, right? There is no, if you've got an or some sort of issue or dispute between companies of different countries, well, there's no one sovereign that ultimately at the end of the day says, this is the decision and you are to follow it, which makes sense why arbitration then makes a lot of sense. Do you ever run into issues then where, how does one get the arbitration to be binding, I guess, to make sure that that international company actually goes with...
Sheriff, it's interesting that when you say that you are half Egyptian yourself, because in my point of view, what made the arbitration is really popular or a trusted method of solving disputes is the New York Convention, which was signed in 1958, and so far more than 150 countries in the world acceded to that convention. But what happened in 1958 for the ICC General Secretary to propose to the United Nations the New York Convention on Recognition and Enforcement of Foreign Arbitral Award? My personal interpretation for that is after Abdel Nasser, since you are half Egyptian, the famous president of Egypt at that time when he nationalized the Canal Company, France, UK attacked Egypt, but at that time they got a collective ultimatum from the US and Soviet Union then to withdraw immediately. So those two countries went out. They could not crush Abdel Nasser, and the Canal Company was nationalized. So maybe it was the trigger to think about a method that how can you sue something in a different country without taking your fleet, your warships, and invade that country, occupy it. And that, I believe, was the reason, because United Nations was built on the concept of solving the disputes peacefully. So that's one of the two main concepts United Nations was made for: the right of the people to determine their self-determination and solving disputes peacefully.
And I'm going to bring that back. It's just kind of interesting. So you've been doing this for 24 years. You're doing it for disputes that are taking place between companies, between people and companies, between nations.
And between companies and nations.
And between companies and nations. And today you've taken, even though you're here for the International Chamber of Commerce, but you're still here. And you didn't leave after September 19. And why is that? So now I want to get to an important reason why you're present in the U.S. as we speak, because you're taking this out of court dispute resolution from a professional mission to a personal and a humanitarian mission. So let's talk about that. Why are you still in the U.S.?
May I make a confession now?
Please do. Confessionals are welcome.
That's right. You are forgiven.
Thank you very much. My main reason to come to New York was not to attend the ICC conference, but while I was there, I said, let me spare a couple of hours and attend.
Okay.
But my main reason to come to US, it's what's going on in my hometown. As I have introduced myself at the beginning, that I'm from Suwayda province in southern Syria, which is a mountain area spread over around 605,000 square kilometers, mainly inhabited by Druze, with more than 95% of its population Druze minority, and with 3 to 4% Christians and less than 1% different religious, let me say that. Recently, we are facing a genocide campaign by a new Syrian regime, which they were ex-ISIS, or that's how they introduced themselves, as they were ex-ISIS, but now they are trying to be civil regime, reformed, repented, if I may say that. But since 13th of July, this genocide campaign started physically, preceded by media campaign, preceded by some battles here and there, against Druze. But we are still under siege. My hometown under siege. We more than 2,000 people killed. This documented more than 2,000. Still have also hundreds missing. We still have 30 villages and towns under military occupation. Their people are pushed out of those towns because of this barbaric attack. We have 192,000 displaced people. Now they are housed in schools, okay, and they cannot go back to their towns and villages. More than 20,000 homes were burned to the ground. Double that number were looted. We still have abducted women. They took them under the name of Sabaya. It's something very ancient, goes back to the Middle Ages when an army invade another country. They abducted women and then take them and sell them like slaves. Unfortunately, we are in the 21st century and this being done to us by should be our Syrian brothers. It's not our issue now just with this regime. Within 6 months, I don't know how media is strong to convert majority of Syrian people into being extreme blind supporters to this regime, which just 6 months ago was listed on the US and international list of terror organizations
and Firas,
like ISIS.
Firas, it's important to kind of, for the listeners that are not privy to what unfolded in Suwayda province, how did it start in July? And I know we can date it back a few months before that, but how did it start in July? And I want just a brief summary of how it started in July and what happened in July 16th, and where are we today?
Okay. First, this big, massive attack started on 13th of July. It was a Sunday afternoon. They attacked from the west and the north.
Who's
on
they?
the front line, the Syrian government, army, and national security. That's because, the few months ago, they were Al-Nusra group and many Islamist militias, which were in the north.
What is Al-Nusra group?
Al-Nusra group is the twin brother of or sister to ISIS. Even the leader of Al-Nusra group was the leader of ISIS in Syria. Abu Muhammad al-Julani, a well-known figure, $10 million was the bounty on his head by the US government. So he's well-known. And then he formed the Al-Nusra group, which is still very similar or the same of ISIS. Then in last December, if you remember, they pushed back the Al-Assad regime, took over Syria, and all other Islamic militias elected him, or not elected, they agreed to submit it to him as the leader of Syria. And the international community started dealing with him as the president of Syria. And in a few days' time, he will come here to New York to address the United Nations as the president of Syria.
So now we have Mohammed. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. What was the motivation behind the attacks? Why? I mean, because of course it strikes. It just doesn't make sense that their own government attacks.
Well,
what is it?
If we call it a government, we have a complicated situation in Syria. We in Suwayda, we were against Bashar al-Assad. We were the last city standing against Bashar al-Assad. 18 months in the streets chanting against Bashar al-Assad before he fell down. And for your information, when Bashar al-Assad fled the country on 8th of December, Suwayda has completely been liberated by Bashar al-Assad army. They just took over the military bases, Suwayda people, and brought buses on their own expenses and sent those soldiers back to their home, to different parts of Syria, after feeding them, treating them well. So, and prior to that, also for the last maybe 10 years, there is no actual or real presence of the regime in Suwayda. So, it's really shocking that we were among, also during this what started as a revolution in 2011, then it turned into a civil war. Majority of Suwayda people took the positive neutrality attitude, where they refused to send their children to the military services. More than 60,000 men from Suwayda were wanted by Bashar al-Assad regime because they refused to go the draft or to go to the military service. And it's really shocking why we are being slaughtered now just because we are of a different religious. This regime now, maybe the leaders of it, like Mr. Ahmed al-Shara, has changed his clothes and is wearing a tie and a suit now. But apparently, the whole army he has, which was just the ex-ISIS or al-Nusra or all of these terrorist organizations, just they redressed them in a uniform, but they didn't abandon their beliefs that should convert people to Islam or kill them, which of course being rejected by most of the Muslims and Muslim countries in the world.
And that is,
but unfortunately, this is what happened. And for us as Druze, we have this painful history with them. In Idlib, we had 14 villages of Druze. Now you can hardly find anyone because massacre happened to them in 2017.
What is Idlib? So for the listeners,
Idlib is a province in northern Syria, which was the place or the station where al-Nusra group were stationed. It was out of Bashar al-Assad control. And from there, the attack on the Bashar al-Assad regime started. Then in 2018, ISIS attacked us from the east of Suwayda. If you know the map, Suwayda in the south. To the eastern part of Suwayda, there is some kind of an empty desert, sparsely inhabited, where till now, majority of ISIS members are trained, hiding and training places and place to launch attacks. So we were attacked in 2018. Over a night, they killed 250 civilians, women, children, and men. We resisted that. It was a massive attack, similar in the size and the manner conducted to the attack on Mosul in Iraq. But for us, we don't leave our land. We don't leave our own country. So people resisted. The attack failed. And we have this history with them, being Druze, being wanted just because you are Druze. When this regime came, they claim that they want to be civil and for Syrians, it's a country for all. And we opened our arms and hearts for them, and we were stunned. However, we had this painful history. We said no. We would not allow this HTS, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, which is the coalition between all of these Islamic groups, to come in Suwayda and to take over security. We will run our own security by our own men and women. This was not likable by the regime, and they wanted to enter forcibly. And they started this media campaign against us as traitors, as agents of Israel, which it's just, we have relatives in Israel. As I said at the beginning, there are around 150,000 Druze in Israel. They are relatives of us. It's the same family. You can find people in Israel and people in Lebanon and people in Syria and people in Jordan. If you go to the 5th or 7th great father, it's the same one for all of these 4 branches of the family. So that's the only thing. But we were always, Syrian. We were the people, by the way. Syria, there was no Syria. Let me give you, since you are so far from that. Before Sykes-Picot, there was nothing called Syria. It used to be the Levant or Al-Sham countries, which is now 5 countries. One of them not fully recognized by the international community, which is Palestine. But we have full independent countries now: Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, and Israel. Before 1916, Sykes-Picot, when they divided the influence of the French and the British, there was nothing called Syria. So the current Syria now, which is known as Syria, it was formed by the French. It was not even a Syria. It was 4 countries. So when the French occupation or mandate came on Syria, they divided into 4 countries, 4 states, all of them under the French occupation. Jabal al-Druze state, where I come from, and Al-Alawiyat, Jabal al-Alawiyat state, which the mountain of Al-Alawiyat, Damascus state, and Aleppo state, in addition to Lebanon. They expanded the size of Lebanon. So that's how it was. In 1936, we, the Druze, the Jabal Druze state, unilaterally declared that we want to unify with the Syria. And before that, I'll take you back to the history in 1925, we led the Syrian revolution. We more than 80% of what we call marchers were Druze against the French. And our main demand was to unify all of these four states into one state called Syria. So if you look at the current Syria, it was made by us once upon a time, voluntarily, and we paid the price. I don't want to exaggerate and say we alone paid the price, but I'm telling you, human-wise, cost-wise, destruction-wise, more than 90% by us. So for us, it's really, really unbelievable, shockingly unbelievable, to be treated by our Syrian brothers in such a way to align with this extremist against us, not only in the fight. When this started in July, so that's what I'm telling you. And of course, the Israelis used to hit Syria all the time because they are still in a war situation. After the Bashar al-Assad fled the country on 8th of December, on 9th of December, Israel destroyed 400 military bases all over Syria belonging to the Syrian army. We had no role in that. Then after that, Israel declared that we want to protect Druze from those people. We were not giving orders to anyone, okay? So, but the media, they needed a scapegoat for their failure. So they escalated and they picturized us as we are the reason. Because, I missed to tell you something. In Suwayda, because we were standing against Bashar al-Assad, demanding a democratic country, a democratic system. When this new Islamists took over power, they didn't want any kind of democracy. Even they prevented pronouncing the word of democracy. For us, that was not acceptable. So we said, no, we want a modern constitution where people are represented in a democratic way. This was the main point of disagreement between us and the government. So they started demonizing us. Unfortunately, most, if not all, of the Arab media outlets, the regional media, Arab media channels, aligned with the regime media, in demonizing us, picturizing us as we were the reason to continue the sanctions on Syria. Sanctions on Syria was not put because of us and was not extended because of us. That's how we created this. They started, you asked me how it started. It started on 13th of July. Tens of thousands, definitely more than 120,000, because the front line was from the west to the north, more than 100 kilometers. The attack came at once. Some foreign magazines, they say a number which looks like really big, but we don't know because the regime did not declare how much. The New York Foreign Policy magazine said who contributed into the attack on Suwayda, 450,000 soldiers. If you know that the current population of Suwayda now is less than 500,000, so you can imagine how brutal. And they came with tanks, with Grad, mortars, with all kind of weapons, and with the drones. And we were attacked on 13th of July, Monday, 14th of July, Tuesday. They could reach the Suwayda city, the center of the province, the Suwayda province, and they stormed the National Hospital. That what the Sky News, France 24, BBC, Reuters recorded later pictures of bodies being piled out. Killed all the wounded, more than 350 inside the hospital only. Hardly left any shop in the market without being looted. As I told you at the beginning, more than 20,000 homes were burned to the ground. 34 villages were occupied, people pushed out of it because whomever was left in his village was killed. Till now, till the moment I'm speaking to you now, on 21st of September, I still have 29 villages and towns under military occupation, 192,000 people. The residents of those villages are being housed in the schools, and winter is approaching. They cannot and they are not allowed to go back. Anyone try to even come close being targeted by machine guns, 23 millimeters, or by mortars, or by grads. So that's what's going on.
Firas, it's important to know for many people that don't know this area that Suwayda province doesn't have its own military. It's part of Syria. So when you bring up the fact that there is over 400,000 soldiers, but
I did not say 400. I said New York Foreign Policy magazine.
That's what I'm saying.
Sure, more than 100,000.
I'm gonna get that. When you said that there is over 400,000 soldiers that have been quoted in magazines, it doesn't seem like it's just an incident between people on the ground. It seemed like this was an organized attack. Okay,
of course, 4 months.
For organized attack. But the question then becomes, when was this organized, and have the Druze been an eyesore for some time for the regime, and if so, why?
Yeah, as I said, it started the dispute in December about the constitution, about the way of the new political regime in Syria, the disagreement. One of our religious figures, actually, is the number one religious figure in Suwayda, called Sheikh Hikmat al-Hajari. He used to also support the demonstrators, the peaceful demonstrators against Bashar al-Assad, and he used to call for a democratic, secular Syria. He continued this demand with this new regime, which they did not like, and that increased the tension till April. In April, they started targeting our students in Syrian universities, unfortunately by their own colleagues. Demonstrations chanting to wipe out Druze, to exterminate Druze, to kick Druze out from universities were guarded by what you call general security forces. So they had then in end of April, beginning of May, they attacked two Druze towns, small towns near Damascus called Jaramana and Sahnaya. And they put a siege on Suwayda province. We are around 100 kilometers from Damascus as Suwayda city, the center of Suwayda province. But the last village in the north called Al-Sawara is just 50 kilometers from Damascus. So they blocked the road to prevent any aid or any help from Suwayda to their cousins in Jaramana and Sahnaya. And they slaughtered a lot of them, and they subdued them. After that, they started preparing for this big attack. So how people of Suwayda, you mean, resisted? During the last 10 years, as I told you, being somehow out of the control of the Syrian regime, people used to take arms to protect themselves because there is no police, no security forces, nothing, so people relied on themselves. So we had, and then when the Bashar al-Assad fled, and 2 days before he fled, when the people of Suwayda took over the military bases in Suwayda, they took number of weapons from those military bases and they kept them. The regime used to say, hand over your weapons, it's only no weapon unless in the hands of the state. The answer from Suwayda came, yeah, of course we are willing to hand over the weapons, but first let us see that if you can establish.
The new regime.
The new regime.
Yes.
If you can establish, we don't want these weapons in the hands of our children, but we need to see that if we will be safe if we give up our weapons. Debate in Suwayda and Syria continued till 7th of March. 7th of March, you know what happened to Alawiyat in the Latakia when they attacked. So people who were against keeping the weapons said, come on, if we did not have weapons, they might attack us as they attacked the Alawiyat. So they said, no, now we insist more on keeping our own weapons in our hands till we see a stable regime. So this what happened, and this escalated the dispute. As I said, till in April and beginning of May, then they started to prepare to this attack, which happened on 13th of July. So did we have weapons? Yes, but it's a normal, very, very light weapons like, guns or that Russian rifle, Kalashnikov. Yes, that's what we have.
So
we did not have tanks or artillery or anything
there was
else.
A lot of videos that made it on social media where people were asked a simple question. Who are you? And their answer, if they said they were Druze, they were executed immediately.
Yes. And by the way, 3 American citizens were executed on the street. One of them is a doctor from Oklahoma.
And that's where, and the reason why Oklahoma hits home is Sharif is partly from Oklahoma as well. So the simple answer of being Druze was a death sentence.
Yes. And to tell you, if you saw the video, which actually what makes very painful for us, that they publish those videos is not us, it's them. They publish them
why?
on own social medias.
Why?
Because they were cheered for doing these things by their crowd, by their supporters.
And it's important to know, we're not
And
talking
the
about,
guy,
we're
he
talking
asked
about radicals,
him-
not Muslims here. It's we're
Yes,
talking about radical
but
Muslims.
now the
for
general
them-
atmosphere is in all Syria, not of course except the Christians, Kurds, Alawiyat, all minorities except those, but the general believe that those Druze must be exterminated and Syria would be better off without them.
And is that owed to media coverage?
Yes, mainly for media coverage.
Mainstream media coverage?
Yes. Yes.
So-
but this incident, can I
Yes.
tell you, because this is documented on their own videos. The guy asked an old man, his name is Munir al-Rujmi. In the street, he told him, "Who are you? Are you Muslim or Druze?" The guy said, "I am a Syrian, brother." He
While
said,
he's on his
"What
knees.
does it mean you are a Syrian? I'm asking you, are you Muslim or Druze?" He said, "I'm Syrian and Druze." He said, "Okay, since you are Druze," and he shot him in the heart. His friend, his colleague was videoing that military man, and they published on social media. There is a famous social media page for them called Zainul Mahamid, and they published all of this. Even on Sunday, when they were preparing to the attack, they are blaming us how you resisted the security forces. On Sunday morning, they were publishing on their social media, raising their arms and scissors as a sign that we are coming to shave your mustaches. In our culture, if you want to insult a man, you take his mustache out. It's a big offense. So in Druze culture, in Jaramana, one of their influencers, he called himself a poet. He was encouraging them to shave the mustaches. And then, as a reward for him, the regime gave him the opera house in Damascus to give to say his poems. So this for us, how can I allow such people with this intention without resisting them? It's a matter of dignity, which is in our culture is come a little bit more important than life.
Without a doubt. How did it stop? What led to them stopping?
Well, yeah, the attack started. Unfortunately, there is no comparison between the power of the attackers and their weaponry and the defenders of their own homes. So we were crushed, and the fight continued from block to block, from home to home inside Suwayda city. After 34 villages being fallen out, people dropped their children and women to the southern part of Suwayda, where they are far away from the battlefield.
Including your family and your wife.
Including my wife, my two sisters, my brother.
Okay.
My brother refused to leave his home, by the way. He was an ex-judge, retired, but refused to leave his home in Suwayda city. Anyhow, and they came back even fighting. But what happened is, Tuesday, on 15th of July, Israeli made some warning strikes on some gathering of the military groups in the south, but for them that increased the number of attackers. They said, it's time to jihad, to die, to go to the heaven,
Because now Israel is part of the equation,
Exactly.
helping the Druze, so they believe that,
they did not stop. They intensified. They executed all the wounded in the hospital, National Hospital. There was a tank shooting at the hospital. They damaged part of the third floor of the National Hospital. They killed 3 doctors while they are trying to reach the hospital. Dr. Talat Amr, Dr. Fatin Hilal, to name names. But on Wednesday, Israel hit hard. The air forces of Israel, they destroyed the commanding, the military command in Damascus on air, because it's just behind the Syrian TV. So everybody saw it live.
Firas, why is that important? Because originally it was masked that this was a tribal conflict between some Druze and Bedouins. But then when Israel on Wednesday attacked Damascus, the government all of a sudden was able to control it all, right?
Yes.
So why is that important?
Well, I'll tell you something. This is the thing that people try to forget the sequence of the events. Okay. There was no talk about the tribal before 16th of July. But after Israel hit and forced them, and they hit also the presidential palace, so they ordered their troops to withdraw out of Suwayda. And Israel said that we are hitting for two reasons. One, that we give these authorities a warning, no heavy weaponry in the south, and they breached such order. Second, to protect the Druze and stop the genocide. Okay. So at night, he came on TV and called to withdrawal. But many of those soldiers who attacked, more than 70,000, they are Turkish mercenaries. They are on the payroll of Turkey till now. Everybody knows that. And many of them are still under US sanctions, like Al Amshat or Al Hamzat, and they are well-known names for, maybe you would check with any US intelligence or army, they would know the names better than me because they are still on the list of terror organizations, and they are still on the payroll from Turkey. So he claimed that they are withdrawn. Thursday morning, there is a quiet. But then the media, this is what I'm talking about. Major media channels and outlets published the photos that the tribes are gathering to come to attack Suwayda to help their Bedouin relatives in Suwayda. By the way, Bedouin are not more than 1% of Suwayda. And when they evacuated them from Suwayda city, 12 days after the fight, everybody saw that they are safe and sound, okay? So it was all like a staged scene. In reality, there were no tribes. It's just maybe a few thousands came on that night, Thursday. But in reality, the same forces which they withdrew from the Suwayda city, this is the confusion for the West. They do confuse Suwayda city with the Suwayda province, like New York City with the New York state. But they withdrew from Suwayda city, but they were still on the 34 villages on the west being occupied, 1/3 of our province. And they attacked again on a Friday, and they allowed the foreign media to accompany them on Saturday to show that it's a tribal attack, it's a civil dispute between Druze and the tribes, which is not. This is the narrative of the regime till now, unfortunately. And what really painful to us that the special envoy, the special U.S. envoy to the Middle East, Mr. Thomas Barak, did not visit Suwayda, did not see that, what's going on in reality. And nobody knew till the Sky News and France 24, BBC, Reuters made few reports. But immediately 2 days after that, they prevented foreign media from entering. Only the medias, which telling their narrative,
was allowed in.
Until now, we are facing this distortion of facts, misleading info. And you know something about that tribal? These two major Arab medias, particularly Jazeera channel, everybody knows Jazeera, which has strong ties with Muslims Brotherhood, published two photos on Thursday. One of them, when in reality, when it was checked by all search engines, one of them belonged to Iraqi area in 2016 called Al Sahwat. US military knows what's Sahwat, gathering at that for a fight. And the other one from a celebration in Yemen called Eid al-Ghadir. So, and they published that extensively on that night on Thursday as it's happening on that day in Syria on 17th of July that the tribes are gathering to attack Suwayda to help the regime, this Al Jazeera channel,
so
to help the regime to cover up the massacre, the genocide attack committed by the regime's forces, the what they call general security forces.
So let me fast forward you today. Knowing everything that you know, you along with a team of attorneys, lawyers in Suwayda, have in a way drafted a petition. Let's talk a bit about this petition. What is the petition that y'all have drafted? Because as you sit here today, you may be a Firas Alchoufi, but your voice is not a voice of one. it's a voice of many. And I will get to how many voices are speaking into this mic right now. But why don't you talk a bit about the petition that you've established?
If I may give a few words as
Yes.
an introduction. On 14th of August, after 31 days of severe siege, started gradually to be at least, not uplifted, but allowed some basic materials that we can buy and send via the Red Crescent to Suwayda. But the siege is still there. 14th of August, 31 days. I was hosted by an Arab channel news. And during the interview, they said, what's the solution? I told them, I think the good solution for everyone, for Suwayda people, for Syria, for the regional powers, for the US, for the international community, is for Suwayda to be an independent country, completely independent country. This was a shocking statement for everyone heard it. But on 16th of August, 2 days after that, it was Thursday, 14th of August, Saturday, 16th of August, all over Suwayda, people were chanting, we want full independence. We want full independence. Everybody realized that this is the solution to diffuse tension, You cannot topple up a regime while you're a minority less than 3%. And majority of Syrian, except minorities, except Kurds, Christians, and Alawiyat, majority of Syrians, they want that regime. They are cheering for that regime. So what's the solution? And as far as the regime keep hitting us, keep the siege on us, our relatives in Israel will keep putting pressure on their government, an Israeli government, to intervene. And when Wednesday, 16th of July, when Israeli hit, people may forget the fact, which everybody saw on the news, even on CNN and other American news, that more than 3,000 Druze from Israel tried to break the fence and enter to Syria. And big demonstrations happened till they forced, because they have good presence in the Syrian, in the Israeli army since 1948. They serve regularly since 1956 in the Syrian Israeli army. So they are full Israeli with full rights and duties. So they put big pressure on their government to intervene to stop the genocide. So I said, okay, as far are being hit, Israel will hit. They cannot, whether this government from right or left, or it's Likud or Israel Our Home or whatever, any party, even from Labour Party, they cannot ignore 150,000 constituents in Israel. They cannot ignore that there are thousands of Druze soldiers in Israeli army. Some of them are with big ranks. They cannot ignore that those people will not remain silent while their cousins are being slaughtered in Syria, in a country which all the time was an enemy of Israel. So we said this is maybe a solution, that independent country, diffuse tension. It helps making a regular security forces in Suwayda, which can control, the drug trafficking and weaponry trafficking between ISIS and other jihadist groups to Jordan and ultimately to Hamas and in Israel. So the other solution also for regional countries and even for the US, which they see the only solution now in Syria to support Mr. Ahmad al-Shara, to control those extremists, as he is promising to control the extremist Islamists, and to fight ISIS. So that will take off some pressure out of his shoulder, diffuse the tension. After that, we started thinking as lawyers, and me and my friends, majority of them in Syria, my lawyers' friends, we started discussing that, look, how can we, form such request into a legal way? And we decided to make a petition addressed to the United Nations and to the government of the free world, such as the US government, demanding a general referendum for the people of Suwayda, where people will be given at least three choices. One of them to stay within unified Syria without any change, the other one within a kind of self-governing or a federation. The third option is to declare full independence. This referendum shall be supervised by the United Nations with full transparency, without pressure on anyone. So let us hear what Suwayda people want. Then we said, how can we make this petition strong? We deliberated, then we, communicated with many activists till we became 2,100 activists on the ground, spread over 300 centers all over Suwayda province. We decided that each area with a population between 2,000 and 4,000 people, like a small village or a neighborhood in the big city, to be covered by a group of volunteers, girls and boys, men, women and men, to cover that, to collect written signatures on a very clear petition where the name is mentioned, the place is mentioned, the signature is there in writing, so nobody can question the authenticity of this. Another opinion came as, let us launch it also online, so people of Suwayda from outside Syria, they can also contribute. So we launched the campaign last Monday online. On Wednesday, we started the campaign on the ground for 4 days. Online campaign, once it reached 120,000 signatures, but we saw there are few being repeated, few not credible. We immediately stopped the online campaign, and we need time now to filter to know exactly how many legitimate e-signatures are there. However, on the ground, we finished today the count of the signatures, and I can tell you how many written signatures on the ground from the group. It's exactly till now, maybe there are a few hundreds left, but exactly till now, 127,786 signatures. So we are talking about around 128,000 signatures, written signatures on the ground, apart from the e-signatures online, demanding on this petition, where I am proud to be one of the organizing committee of this petition, signing a clear request that we do have the right of self-determination as per the international law. And in that petition, we have clarified that United Nations, one of the principles, as we started about arbitration and solving dispute peacefully, is one of the principles made United Nations. The other principle is the right of people for self-determination. And we put two examples in that petition. First, Eastern Timor, where the United Nations conducted general referendum in 1999, I believe. And people at that time chose the independence. The other one, Kosovo, where they did not take it to the United Nations because Russia was supporting Serbia, the biggest country in ex-Yugoslavia. So people declared independence from one side. So we have this. So either it will be done, this referendum, with cooperation with the United Nations, which we prefer to do it in a democratic way, in civil way, in legal way. We are not carrying weapons. We are not harming anyone. We are just signing a petition and now being demonized by signing a petition demanding our right for self-determination to solve this Syrian dilemma in a civil and legal and peaceful way.
Not too long ago, you had an article published in Al Nahar newspaper.
Yes, the famous Lebanese newspaper, yep.
And the title of the article is Suwayda and the Right of Self-Determination, Theory and Application. Yep. In it, you argued that granting the Suwayda people the right to govern themselves is a solution rather than an escalation. Solution for the people of Suwayda. Why don't you see it as an escalation for the, whatever you want to call it in air quotations, the government of Syria?
Well, I'll tell you something. I argued in this article I wrote and I sent to Al Nahar newspaper 3 days or 4 days before starting the campaign on the ground. But they published, I believe, on Wednesday or Thursday. No, actually on a Friday morning they published the day before yesterday this article. I did not argue it's a solution for Suwayda. I said it's a solution for all. For Suwayda, for Syria, for Jordan, for the regional powers, as well as for the US and international community. So for solution for Suwayda, it's known the answer that you cannot live with under a government being the spearhead of the forces trying to kill you. It's an existential necessity, is not only a political choice for us. Now, for solution for Syria, the tension mainly now for the last couple of months between Syria and Israel is because of the Druze in Suwayda. Or that what they are saying. So, having us out of the Syrian equation will diffuse the tension or kill any excuse for intervention from foreign powers. Because honestly, people who knows more, they would know that it was a kind of conflict between Turkey and Israel on by our blood. Solution for Jordan. Jordan also suffers from the trafficking of weaponry and drugs. Not from Suwayda people, but they pass to Jordan via the eastern side of the desert near to Suwayda. And the regime forces or the general security cannot reach there without crushing Suwayda people. So forming local security forces within Suwayda under international supervision, for example, where Jordan, US can play a big role in that, can limit or control completely the trafficking of drugs and weaponry. Also, we can be a big help in the fight against ISIS because to the eastern of us, they are our enemy in anyhow. We are not just fighting ISIS because US fighting ISIS. It's our own enemy and our own threat, and they attacked us from the east in 2018. Eastern to us till Al-Tanaf on Iraqi borders. Al-Tanaf American military base in Al-Tanaf on Iraqi borders. It's around 200 kilometers. This part of the desert is the place that's not inhabited by any, but it's the place for ISIS to hide, to train, to plan attacks. We can, if being supported by the US as they are doing to the Kurds in northeastern Syria, if they can support and provide some weapons and training and supervision to our local forces, we have more than 400 military officers, ranks from captain to major general. We have more than 1,300 sergeants. Those they were in the old army, but they have clean hands of blood. They did not contribute in killing Syrians. Those they are well trained and they know how to fight. They know how to form good, small but very effective military units of, let us say that 10,000, 15,000 soldiers, and they can push ISIS from eastern borders because it's our main till the borders of Iraq till they reach Al-Tanaf. This is a mutual interest between us and US. And then to the regional, the regional country, I think even if I was a decision maker in US or in Saudi Arabia or in GCC, I would prefer to maintain Mr. Ahmed al-Shara now, because otherwise, if he's out of the picture, there might be a big chaos in Syria. So that will take off also the pressure of this government, and that will serve the purposes of the regional power. International committee, the last one, also it's the fourth level, the solution, the fourth fold of the solution is for an international committee that will help, ease sanctions on Syria so many refugees can go back. But now, more refugees are going out. Sanctions are being tightened, and the situation is getting worse and worse. So instead of receiving the refugees back, you are exporting refugees to the international committee. So that's how I see it as a solution, not only for Suwayda, not only as existential necessity for Suwayda people, but for the entire region and even for the international community, and particularly to the US, if they support establishing regular security forces in Suwayda under their supervision, abide by law and rules, and that will help to the stability of the entire region.
What are the next steps practically? So signatures are now around 128,000. That's in person, and not including what you
the written signatures,
right. Not the online.
Excluding
it could
the
very
online.
well be over 200,000 potentially. From the legal standpoint, when do you submit that petition and who do you submit it to?
Well, that's why I'm here in the US, because this campaign started and I traveled here. So by the time it's finished, I would save no door of knocking on it to make sure that this petition, it's easy to be delivered to the United Nations, but I want it to be read. I want it to be deliberated. I wanted people to, or the decision makers to see it, particularly the US politicians. Because without a push from the US government, I don't think they will take it seriously. And in the Middle East, the main decision maker or external decision maker is the US. And that's why I'm here. So I don't want only the petition to reach the United Nations and the governments of the free world. I want this petition to be considered, this solution being proposed to be considered. I'm not saying now we want full independence now. No, I'm saying decide a date for a general referendum, maybe after 6 months, maybe after 1 year, whatever you see appropriate, to conduct a general referendum. Meanwhile, there would be plenty of time for this government to prove, can they really secure our safety? Can they really stop targeting us? Can they lift up the siege on our towns? Can they clear the 30 villages and towns from their military occupation so 192,000 people can go back? Can they compensate people whose homes were burned to the ground, more than 20,000 homes? So by that time, we'll see. Based on the performance of the Syrian government, I believe the outcome of the referendum will happen. During that time, we have no choice. We are a very lively people. We have very high education percentage, maybe in the world. You might be surprised about. And by the way, the percentage of women university graduated more than the percentage of men in our community. May I talk a little bit about this, because people need to know what is this community. You know, we are not only just a fierce defenders of our land. We are well educated. I'm from a very small village, rural village in Suwayda, called Sammal Baradan. Its population does not exceed 2,000 people. We have more than 20 lawyers, more than 15 doctors, more than 25 engineers, you know, and so on. More than 15 or 25 teachers, and so on. And that's an example of a very rural village in Suwayda. So imagine in the main centers how it is. Meanwhile, we'll keep regulating ourselves. We have the next step also to elect our syndicates, bar association, all of these syndicates and our local councils, democratically forming our own government, working on polishing our those defenders, make them into one group and if the international community does not listen to us, we might take the option which Kosovo took years ago and declare independence from one side. So, listening to this, whomever wants Syria to be unified, maybe the solution is to listen to this petition, to consider it, and work really genuinely on reaching a peaceful solution to the Syrian Suwayda crisis.
You know, what's important to note, Firas, is that the Druze population as a whole is not a very large population. We're talking about 1 million to 1.5 million Druze around the world. You had about 2,000 documented that have been killed. Proportionally, if you equate that to the Christian religion of 2.4 billion, it equates to about 2 million Christians, a little over 2 million Christians being killed.
You are calculating about the entire Druze population. I'm talking about 500,000
yes,
inside Suwayda,
without
2,000 killed,
without that, so
and
it's much
2,000
higher.
missing till now.
So it's
So percentage is much more.
So it's a great percentage of the religion as a whole, and that's the reason why you're here speaking with passion. You're on the ground. You've left what you do, and that is to arbitrate and solve disputes between people, companies, nations. But now you're like, well, it's a fight for your people, and I commend you for that. And today, we did not just hear from Firas Alchoufi.
Can I?
We heard from thousands, and go ahead and speak about the thousands, because I see that you have your phone in your hand.
Actually, I want to tell you, when you said about this number, I don't know where's the camera, if it can catch what's in my phone.
It probably cannot, unfortunately, because it's all the way up there. But
So I show you the faces of those beautiful children, boys and girls. She's pianist, composer, singer, novelist, and 14 years old. And the results of her secondary school came, and she was the first on the whole Suwayda province. It's just one mark, 3,299 out of 3,300, the full mark. This is an example. Another child, this is 2 years, you see. Another child, 13 years old, being attacked by soldiers. And he saw his mother, his father being killed, and he ran towards the soldier, a 13 years old boy. His name is Saleh Akwan, And the soldier, instead of just maybe slapping him, he just shot him. And the CCTV camera in next factory next to their home captured that tragedy on live. This is also another violinist, Ghina Hilal. See how beautiful she is, this young girl. Well skilled. They are against music. The thing which really, people ask me why you are asking for independence. When I put the photo, the video of this boy being killed by that soldier on Facebook.
It's a humanitarian.
Yes.
You're speaking for humanity. You're speaking.
And by the way, talking about the Christianity, do you think that they distinguish between Druze and non-Druze? They burned in the attack 6 churches. Okay, and the priest, by the way, one of the signatures, one of the centers to collect signatures was one of the churches in Suwayda. And the priest himself, Father Tony Boutros, was collecting the signatures from his followers.
Firas, what you're doing, not many have done. You're speaking a voice, and Sharif touched on it, for over 127,000 just on the ground while they're being seized. They're still signing petitions, excluding over 100,000 that were submitted within 24 hours or so online. In that mic, when you spoke today, many may have thought that they're speaking to one person or they're hearing from one person, but they're not.
Not at all. Now the voice, all I talk, it's there in this petition which we signed, especially the legal part and the civil part and the democratic part. And now, yes, I can say confidently, this is what at least 128,000 people. And if you see the population now, less than 500,000 or 450, more than half of them are children, you can imagine now the percentage. Important thing, important message, what the next step. Yeah, of course, there are many next steps to happen. First, we don't want to go ahead of ourselves. Let us see how the United Nations, the US government look at that. Meanwhile, we will resume the wars and keep working on ourselves. We never thought about independence. We were never prepared for that. We don't have a single legal or financial or media entity. We never thought about that. We all the time thought we are Syrians and defended Syria. But now we have to think about other options. So, in addition to those steps which we are taking, the legal steps, the civil steps, peaceful steps, we want something very important to go out. This petition clearly says what Suwayda people want and what they don't want. So here we urge every external player not to speak on behalf of Suwayda people. Suwayda people, they can speak for themselves, and they spoke. Now, no one can say Suwayda wants that, does not want this. That's what Suwayda wants.
So the voice that we're talking about is the voice that we're hearing from today. That's the voice that will speak for the Suwayda people, given the amount of work that's been done by you and other attorneys on the ground.
And may I say something also to the American public? They might think it's an easy job to collect 130,000 signatures on the ground from 300 centers. We don't have gasoline. We don't have diesel. We buy it somehow, which comes illegally, Now that's what we are buying illegally, the gasoline and diesel, hardly to find. So some people, those volunteers, out of the 2,100 volunteers, some of them, they walked kilometers, 5-10 kilometers from villages just to go to the people, to the elderly, to get their signatures, to the people who cannot make it to the centers. We spent the entire day yesterday, people on the ground, collecting the papers and scanning in the center of Suwayda and sending the scanned copy of those more than 15,000 papers.
That is the simple definition of democracy, or what they're trying to prove to the
And
world.
not a single incident of violence or even shouting or even a bad word was said during this 4 days campaign on the ground.
Firas, we appreciate you. We hope your voice continues to echo not only in the U.S., but all over the world. And what you're doing is something that's very commendable for the people of Suwayda, and in particular the Druze of Suwayda. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Nael. Thank you, Sheriff. I wish next time we only talk legal, and I cannot wait till I go back to my normal life and we talk about legal issues, about other issues, but not about this tragedy. I hope it will end very soon.
We appreciate you. In Dubai it is.
That's right. That's right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.